Chappell Roan makes a big splash on the charts with The Giver in its first day, but where does she go from here? And is she a main pop girl now? And also, an album debuts with incredible streams, the highest of the year so far. We'll get into all that and more on the Pop Pod. I am Pop Sam Cam, and it is Monday, March the 17th. Let's start today with the headlines and the chart updates because there is so much news to go through coming off the back of a big New Music Friday last week. The first piece that I want to talk about is Frank Ocean has previewed a new song on Peyton Talbot, the martial artist's YouTube channel.
I've been stripped of a lot as much as I've been gifted. We got history, now all of a sudden I'm a mystery. And the feeling's alive, but what feeling is it?
He's rumored to be dating Peyton, I think. You can fact check me on that. But it's been 10 years next year since we got Blonde, so we are well overdue for some new Frank Ocean music. Of course, if you've been following Frank for a long time, you know that this means absolutely nothing, and there could be nothing coming or there could be everything coming. We will just have to wait and see, but I am loving the sound of this new song. Carly Uchis has announced that she has a new album coming. Carly is one of the hardest working people in pop music. She continues to deliver. She had an album last year, she had an album the year before, and now we're getting this album, which she describes as being her most meaningful and impactful. She said the album is about the complexities of life and finding ways to find joy in life despite the world, and apparently it's about a pretty adverse situation that she went through. However, she did not elaborate any more about that, but I am very excited for new Carly Uchis. Let's get into the chart update because we have an album doing huge numbers this week. Playboy Carti, almost as elusive as Frank Ocean, debuted music on Friday, much to the surprise of fans who were thinking that maybe they might never get a Carti album. It finally arrived and the excitement was palpable. 139.3 million streams on its first day on global Spotify, making it the biggest debut of the year, but also one of the top 10 biggest debuts of all time. Early predictions now have him debuting at number 3 and number 7 on the Billboard Hot 100 with songs Evil Jordan and also Rather Lie, which featured The Weeknd from the album. So this is massive. This shows that Playboy is potentially the biggest artist in hip hop right now. Early figures having pacing ahead of Kendrick Lamar, who features on the album, also Tyler, the Creator, and also Drake. So this is pretty massive. Another massive debut though for Chappell Roan, who we're going to talk about a lot on the podcast today. She earned her biggest ever debut on global Spotify with The Giver, 6.3 million streams, and it debuted at number 9 on the global Spotify charts. Early predictions have her, some of them have her pacing for a debut on the Billboard Hot 100 at number 5, which is an incredible result for Chappell. And we're going to talk about later in the podcast about what 2025 is going to look like for her now that she's got a very solidified fan base and The Giver is proving that there is so much attention around her. But this is an incredible result. In the UK, she holds at number 1 with Pink Pony Club. There was a challenge from Lady Gaga's Abracadabra earlier in the week, but Abracadabra ended up in number 3 and Chappell took it out at number 1. We also have Anxiety by Doechii coming in at number 4 on the UK charts. Let's go into some of the Spotify debuts for some of the music that I liked from the week last week, starting with Lil Nas X's Hot Box, which I personally think is the best pop track he has made in a while. It debuted with 786,000 streams, which is not amazing, but it's notably better than his last big release, which was Light Again. It's basically double that, which is, I think, a sign that things are on the right track for Lil Nas. And I think this song is just beginning. I think that it's got a really catchy radio-ready hook, and if radio picks this up, we could see some much better figures for this. Selena Gomez debuted with 1.38 million streams with Sunset Boulevard off her forthcoming album with Benny Blanco. That was enough to get it at number 190 on the global Spotify charts and 119 on the US Spotify charts. Not an amazing result, but not terrible, and it slipped out on its second day. But I think according to some of the press coming out about this, this was a promo release and there is another main single set to come, so it's certainly not the end for this Selena Gomez album. let's get into the main part of the podcast today, where I want to talk about Chappell Roan.
'Cause you ain't gotta tell me, it's just in my nature, so take it like a taker. So baby, I'm a giver.
Where is Chappell Roan going to go in 2025? And what does the early success of The Giver say about her position in pop music right now? Obviously, Chappell had a massive blow up last year, and it happened relatively quickly, and it happened with many, many songs at the same time. There was a point where I think she had like 7 songs in the global Spotify charts. People fell in love with her album, The Rise and Fall of a Midwest Princess. Good Luck Babe and the release of that separate to the album kind of fueled this. And now the release of The Giver and it coming in at number 8 on the global Spotify charts, giving her her best debut ever, kind of shows that the heat has not died down at all. She obviously collected Best New Artist at the Grammys. She's been playing huge shows. Everything right now just shows that it is all lining up for Chappell. And I think that The Giver doing this well is a very good sign that none of this is going away this year. So with that in mind, how does she play 2025? There are a number of ways that she could play it. She could go quiet for the rest of the year, make a new album. She could also release the new album this year, tour and promote that. Or she could do it the way that I think she should do it and the way that I think she is going to do it, which is just release a couple of droplet tracks throughout the year and really focus on the presence of this live show. She's set to headline a couple festivals, including Primavera Sound, which I think is her first major festival headline slot. If you think back to the early part of last year, it was the live shows that started generating the hype for Chappell Roan. We got that incredible Coachella performance to kick it off when she delivered the bridge of Good Luck Babe with such venom, and that went viral. And then by the time she played Gov Ball, the ground was literally shaking. People were that obsessed with her. And it was those videos and the excitement and that feeling that you wanted to be part of this Chappell Roan community that really drove the early success of these songs and have made it last so long that Pink Pony Club is only having its moment now.
Pink Pony Club, I'm gonna keep on dancing at the Pink Pony Club.
I think Pink Pony Club was released in 2020, so that is quite incredible to see the track doing well now. I think that The Giver is going to give her steam for a couple more months. I think that The Giver could end up being her highest peaking song on the Billboard Hot 100. So I think she's got a few months left in that. She's also got the song The Subway, which she's been teasing live, which I think could do incredibly well, given how much people have fallen in love with that in the live arena. But as I said, I think the live show is what she needs to focus on. She needs to keep introducing new songs like she did with The Subway and like she will with The Giver now, and keep just feeding fans bits and bits and bits, and not deliver a new album this year. I think wait until next year, because you've got to remember a lot of people, despite this album being released in 2023, they felt that it was released in 2024 because that's when it had its moment. So to many people, it feels like that album has only been out for a year, which is not very long. And I feel like the major trap that you can fall into with a second album is moving too quickly and not really realizing what the development is. I think that we saw it with Tate McRae's second album coming off the back of the first one. It didn't necessarily come super quickly, but as soon as Greedy came out, they rushed that album, which was called Think Later, I believe. See, it's just completely fallen out of my memory because it just all happened so quickly. And then she's followed it up quite quickly again with So Close to What. And we're seeing the kind of success with So Close to What that she should have been having on her second album. And I think it's because it was just happening too quickly for people to keep up. You need to let that first album simmer for a bit, give them a little bit of a taste with some extra tracks along the way, and then hit them with a really cohesive, fully realized second record. because I think on the second album, you need to see development. You need to see that you could invest in this artist and you could really get a lot out of them. When I'm thinking of like iconic second albums, I'm thinking of The Fame Monster by Lady Gaga, which set her up as a star. I'm thinking of Teenage Dream by Katy Perry, which fully developed her image. I'm thinking of Guts by Olivia Rodrigo, which I think was just a really strong expansion of her sound and like dipping her toes even further into the rock world. I know that Chappell's in good hands because she's also working with Dan Nigro, who Olivia Rodrigo works with on Sour and Guts as well. And she spoke to Apple Music. She said that she's got new music ready to go. But she also said on an Instagram live or a TikTok live, wherever she was live, somewhere in the world, she said that she's not necessarily ready to fire out with the second album yet. It's not close to being ready. So I would pencil in like a May 2026 release date for the next Chappell Roan record. That remains to be seen. She might get excited and pull the trigger later this year. But I think if she can keep getting the success she's gotten with Good Luck Babe and The Giver, these standalone tracks, which could potentially end up on the second album, but could also not, and that's fine. I think that she's going to keep following this kind of strategy, and I think that it's very smart. Let me know what you think in the comments for this podcast. If you can leave a comment, I think you can on Spotify. Otherwise, this video will be on TikTok as well, where you can join the conversation on there. And if you want to hop over to my Instagram as well, I have a community channel or whatever the fuck they call it that you can join and we can chat a little bit further about it there. Let's finish off the podcast today with a throwback. Mariah Carey's We Belong Together was released 20 years ago. So We Belong Together is one of the biggest hits of all time. It spent 14 weeks at number one on the Billboard Hot 100, making it one of the longest running number one songs in history. Of course, Lil Nas X and Shaboozey last year have kind of put that to fame, but it did incredibly well. It interpolates two classic R&B songs, If You Think You're Lonely Now by Bobby Womack, and also Two Occasions by Deal. It was just such a classic song. I just felt like it completely rejuvenated her career. And without doing too many bells and whistles, remember she was coming off the back of the Glitter film, which was considered a bit of a flop for her. She had to deliver something pretty special. And she gives this like contemporary mid-tempo R&B song, which on the outset does not give like flashy 14 weeks at number one hit, but there's just something so subtle and so expert about the way that she delivers it that it just became an instant classic. I remember this song taking off. I was quite young, but I remember just being the biggest song around at the time. And it was. Billboard named it the Song of the Decade for the 2000s. It was also the most played song of 2005 on US radio, according to Billboard. And it apparently was added pretty late to her album, The Emancipation of Mimi, that it was featured on. It's because her team felt that that album needed another standout ballad. And my God, did they get a standout ballad, because 2 decades into her career, she delivers the most special moment of all, and a song that will go down as one of the greatest R&B songs of all time. That is 20 years old today. We've got plenty coming up on the Pop Pod this week. I'll answer more of your controversial opinions. I'll give you plenty of new music that you need to be diving into. We have new music coming from Selena Gomez and also Japanese Breakfast this week that we will talk about on Friday. But if there's anything that you feel I need to be discussing, feel free to hit me up on my DMs. I've also had people emailing me voice notes to play on the podcast and respond to. I would love for you to keep doing that. The email address to do that to is popsamcam@theinterns.net. I would drop that in the show notes below. Otherwise, I would really appreciate if you would rate and subscribe to this podcast. It is beautiful to have you around. Thank you for joining me and have a great week.